Hello everybody, my name is Donna. I'm from Purple Pinky Promises and I've got a project to bring you to here today. This is a showstopper set, the Spring Bouquet stamp set and dies from Sunny Studio. There's a lot of detail in this project, so hang in here with me. I'm going to take you through this step by step. I know some of you may be a little bit intimidated by layering stamps, but I'm hopefully going to take a little bit of that intimidation out. So the first thing I've done there is I've taken some all these inks are from Catherine Pooler Designs, and the first one was chiffon, and that first layer is always very straightforward, and you always want to use your lightest color for that first stamp. And the nice thing about her stamp sets is that she has actually got them numbered and lettered alphabetically, A, B, and C, and D in this set. And so this second layer that I have put on here is limoncello. And I am stamping that 4 times so that you can really distinguish that second layer from that first layer a little bit better. But basically what's happening here is you're looking for spaces that need to line up. In other words, you see that little line there at the top? I want to be able to see that through that second layer. So I am looking to see where that lies. And as you can see, I also am lining up all of those different lines as well down there below in the center of the flower. So you want to look for curves, you want to look for white space, you want to look for where things should lie on that next layer. And I've stamped the glam, it's glitz, excuse me, it's glitz. I've stamped that several times to make that very distinguishable. Okay. And I would say probably the daffodil was probably maybe a little bit, probably the most complicated flower in this set, but it still goes on easy. And so here's our next flower, the hyacinth. And we start this one with Pucker Up. And I want you to notice something here. I have got this piece of paper here, or a piece of cardstock rather, to where I am going to turn it at every turn. It's going to sit in the same place in that corner. And I've got to make sure it sits in the corner nicely and snugly so that every time I turn it, it's going to actually, for each layer, going to go to the same spot. So I can get 3 knocked out really easily. But I do want to mention, this is a Stamparatus from Stampin' Up. If you don't own one of these, I would highly suggest that you contact a local Stampin' Up demonstrator and grab yourself one of these. I love the Stamparatus. I also love the Misty. This project worked really nice using the Stamparatus because I actually had 2 different sets of things I'm working with, the leaves and the flowers. So I was able to line up my leaves in the other on another plate. So anyway, so as you can see here, I've got the second layer going, and on this layer, I am looking to line up where I'm looking at the bottom part, which is actually looking like the top part at the top there. Those 2 little sprigs, where those are. I call them 2 little sprigs or sprouts or whatever you want to call them. I'm looking at those, and I want that to kind of go right in the center of that, and it should lay in there. As long as I can look and see where that goes in the center, I should be good everywhere else. So I'm just looking for the center point on this, and again on this next layer, I am looking for the center point of those flowers. And if I can find the center point in one, I can pretty much layer it up and line it up with the rest. And as you can see, there it goes. I know that some of this is off screen. It's kind of hard to see when it's not close up to me. So thanks for your patience. And I know this makes it a little bit easier to see now. So that dark went right into the center, but it also filled in all of those other spots to make it look a little bit more 3D. And basically that's how this is a really very forgiving set. If you don't quite get it exactly, it still looks good. I feel like every single one of these flowers would look fantastic, even if you don't get it perfect. And there is a flower that I don't get 100% perfect here later. You'll see. And so what I've done here is I've just lined up, and I stamped on a piece of background paper. I slid it underneath my template that I created with my dies for those stems. Slid it under there, and I just kind of moved it around to where I stamped it first, then I slid it around underneath my template to find out exactly where my all of my stamps needed to lie, and got it lined up perfectly. Okay, so here we go. Now we're doing this iris, and this is the one that I'm going to tell you about that didn't line up perfectly, but it still looks good. And it's barely noticeable. But basically, as you can see here, where I find to line this up is I'm looking at all the white spaces. I don't want anything, I want my white spaces to show. And I'm showing you all those white spaces need to not have any stamps covering. Any of that photopolymer should be only on the colored space there. Okay. And the three colors that I'm using for this, I don't know if I told you, but the Hyacinth was Pucker Up, Flirty, Fuchsia, and Glam. But this one is actually on this iris. It's 16 candles, Pixie Dust, and Glam. I used that last layer in Glam to kind of pull together the two flowers, just so that they would have some coordinating colors to pull it all together. So this is a layer that I was off just a little bit, but it ends up being just fine. And I am stamping directly on that background. That background piece is cut with a Dare to Be Artsy Rectangle Framelit. And that is actually the second framelit in the set. Okay, so now I'm going back and I'm doing another daffodil. That first layer on that daffodil is the chiffon. Next is limoncello, and then it's glitz. So I had to pull this up close to me to kind of look and see where I'm going. That daffodil really takes a good second look and third look to make sure you're lining it up properly. But like I said, there is a little gap there in that stamp that helps me line it up where it needs to go. And also those the petals are another place that you can look. You want to make sure they're covered, and there it is. You see that, how that covers the petals, but then it leaves just a little bit of that petal for some highlighting. And now I, of course, stamping it several times to really give it some emphasis so that you can see that definition in the flower. I do go back in later and fill in the iris, the yellow part with the iris with some more chiffon. You'll see that in a moment here. And I'm showing you, see that gap? That's where I look. And also where that arch is another place that I look to get that layered up. So that arch really helps on that daffodil as well. And on this one, I'm looking at that space, that little space helps me get that lined up right there, that top crown, bottom crown. There's a little space there. It really helps me. Also, there's some definition there that I want to line that up in the center where it goes out to the right, it goes out to the left, and I line it up in those little notches as well. And there you have it. It is lined up. Looks good, folks. Looks good. Okay. And now we're going to do the stems. And I'll just tell you what I did with these stems. Of course, this is in grass skirt, and I, as I did the die cut leaves as well. Those were done in grass skirt. I really inked up my ink pad, folks, before I did this, and it is a very juicy pad. I may have over inked it. I don't know. Who knows? But I definitely did do a lot of ink on that one. So it is a little bit darker than what it might normally be if it wasn't so juicy. Okay. What I'm doing here is I am getting stems lined up where I think it's going to look best and give it some continuity to the flower layers that I'm going to put on here. So there is a little bit of forethought in all of this because there are going to be some flowers there in the center. Those earlier flowers, the hyacinths that I stamped, those are going to go, my plan is to put those in the center, was from the beginning to put those in the center. And then to place the iris and the daffodil, the die cut pieces, on the opposite sides of where they're on the paper in the back, or cardstock in the background. I hope that makes sense. You'll see. So I am directly stamping a background on here just to give it some depth and interest here, using some straight stamping and then die cuts to just make it look like it's got some 3D to it. I do want to point out that on my Stamparatus, I have taped my foam piece to my Stamparatus. That is to alleviate some movement. I sometimes have a little bit of trouble with my foam pad moving around on me, and sometimes when I go back to stamp in the same place, it's shifted on me slightly. So I have taped that down to avoid the shifting. And I've also taped, sometimes that magnet gets in the way. I can't really get a good stamped image. I feel like sometimes I don't have it. Getting the foam pad is great, but sometimes it interferes. I feel like it interferes with the magnet. And so I just tape this down to keep it from moving around and keep it in the same place. It works. And now I have shifted this up. I've shifted it up so that I can go off my background just a little bit with this stem. And being careful when I pull it up that I don't move it because I've got the placement that I want. And I am removing a little bit of the ink at the bottom just so I don't get it on my foam pad. And for whatever reason, I just decided I wanted to ink it up again. Okay, there it is. And here is that iris stamped. I stamp it again because earlier I had stamped, and you probably noticed when I did the daffodil that there was an image already stamped out right above that daffodil. Well, that's because the last layer, I used Grape Crush, and you'll probably see Grape Crush on here somewhere in this video, but I decided when I put that glam on there, I liked it better. So I went back and re-stamped it because I used glam in the last layer, and I really, really liked it. It just really pulled the hyacinths and the irises together. I just felt like it was really pretty. I like that nice contrast there. So here I am lining it up again. And there it is. So this is going to be my die cut piece. I also stamped my Hello sentiment using Glitz. There's that Grape Crush. So we didn't use Grape Crush. I ended up not using it in this project. And I left it, here's where I went back in with my chiffon and stamped in that center, did it again on the background piece really quickly. You'll see that briefly. But yeah, here's our background piece that was stamped straight on there. I stamped that in there as well. Okay, now you'll see on the back side of the hello and the iris were my hyacinths. So I stamped and ended up cutting into them a little bit, but that's okay. I did get one of them that I didn't cut into, so, you know, the two that got cut into are going to be my background ones. Sometimes we think we've made a big boo-boo, but it ends up working out. So it doesn't matter that it got cut into. You'll see what I'm talking about. So I have reduced the size of my tag on my sentiment. So you'll see that I started over on the right, I die cut it, and then there was a little gap on the left. Well, what I did was I took my die, lined it up in those dots, made sure it went right in the groove, and then shifted it back to the left. And I made my sentiment smaller. It's kind of a neat little trick there. All right, now I've kind of just lined up where I want my front flowers to be. And I'm attaching their stems. So all of my stems in the front are going to be die cuts. And those background ones kind of give the illusion of more stems, but they're not die cut. They're just stamped. So it's kind of cool. And I'm just lining them up the way I want them to look on the front, so I can get the right placement with the stem. Okay. Those front pieces are going to go on dimension, foam dimension, double-sided foam dimension. So I think we'll see that here in a sec. So those were my hyacinths that got cut into. Oh well, such is life. And you'll see, it didn't matter. So those are going to go in the center, kind of the background, but yet I love how laying these down directly, these die cuts, create like layers of flowers that look sort of 3D. It's kind of neat. So here's that first one going down, and I tuck in the background. And those front flowers, cover them up. You won't ever see it. Kind of cool. And I don't glue them down all the way because I do want them to kind of lift up just a bit. All right, I did use some double-sided foam adhesive, like I said, and I did this filming at home, and just to let you know, I forgot to bring my double-sided foam adhesive from the store. I've got it listed as the Scrapbook adhesives, the roll of foam that I normally use at the store, but I just dug into some of the double-sided adhesive I had in my stash here at the house. I believe it's Stampin' Up. It's from an old paper pumpkin. I just went at it. Decided it doesn't matter. Really, does it matter? It doesn't, as long as it does the trick. So, and here I am, layering my leaves here in the front with the die cuts. I will tell you that I do really like my Crafty roll of double-sided foam adhesive because I can just cut off the amount I need. And you'll see here in just a second, I ended up going back to that double-sided foam adhesive for the back side of this, my scene, because I end up using some twine, and I roll it around, and I feel like when you do that, it's a little bit easier to get some dimension on the back so that it sticks to your card front a little bit better. I am being careful with the glue. My goal here is actually to create some realistic leaves here and not glue them all the way down. I like it when the leaves kind of stick up just a little bit, but I'm also going to tuck in twine and I'm going to tuck in my sentiment, and you'll see that that is another purpose for not using a lot of glue all the way to the top. But just an FYI, this ink is water-based, so it can kind of start to, I guess, it can leave like a watermark or water spot if you're not careful, if you use too much glue. So you got to be a little bit careful. And thankfully that Barely Art glue has that tiny little spout. It can come out. Otherwise, I just use my finger to kind of spread it around so it doesn't ooze out the sides. All right, so now we're wrapping it. I'm going behind those leaves, meeting up in the back, using a little double-sided tape and to hold all of that down. And just kind of looking at my sentiment and where I want it to go. I'm going to put some double-sided tape on that as well, so it can stick to my twine. And there it is. Yay, we're almost done, folks. So I'm just going to tie my bow, stick it on there with a glue dot to give it the illusion that it's, tied at the tip of that tag, but it's not. Gives me a little more freedom and flexibility where my bow will actually land. Trim it off, get some sequins on here, and we glue it to that card front and card base, and we are done. Woohoo! I really certainly appreciate you guys joining me, whether you guys are here with me on my lives on Thursday nights, watch my uploads, leave me a comment, place an order, whatever it is, you come to my classes, everybody. I appreciate all of you and every little thing you do to support us here. I hope you guys have a great day and a blessed rest of your week. Here we are. I'm almost there. Yes, we have sequins on this. Of course. We couldn't leave off the sequins. And now we are done. Yay! Going on the card front. Oh, you guys, some of you might recognize that twine. There's a story behind that. It involves a miscommunication between my husband and I one night when we were getting ready for card class, and I told him how much twine I needed cutted. What? Did I just say cutted? How much twine I needed him to cut. And he ended up cutting too much. It's a funny story. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great night, great day, wherever it is in your neck of the woods, whatever time it is in your neck of the woods. Take care. Bye-bye.